Hi, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Village and Valley News. This is a special today because joining us here in the studio is Mr. Joey Chavez.
Sir.
Joey Chavez is the owner of the Trusted Tattoo Company and the Body Art Bus. I'm sure many of you in our local community saw it at the Avocado Festival. Since that time, Joey and I have developed quite the friendship. He's quite the extraordinary individual, and today we're going to share exactly why I believe he is truly extraordinary. So, Joey, it's a pleasure to have you on.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming down to the studio today. So, tell the audience to begin with a little bit of your backstory, a little bit about your youth and, your fascination for tattooing and art in general.
Okay, well, honestly, I think, we all have certain gifts, and I've always had the gift of art. I mean, from a very young age, I was always drawing. Matter of fact, I used to get in trouble sometimes for drawing a little bit too much. But my dogs, for some reason, at the house got into my storage.
Yeah.
And my kids are so fascinated because somehow, I don't even know why I had these high school papers, but my dogs are pulling these high school papers out. And they're drawn everywhere, everywhere. And I was like, oh, that's why I used to get in trouble. Because the paper would be written here and then every margin would have a drawing in it. But the thing is, I've always been drawn to that. And my dad was in the military. He was in the Marine Corps. He did 30 years. And so I traveled a lot with him. I grew up in Japan, Hawaii, Tustin, El Toro. And honestly, great life. I can't complain. My dad is basically Captain America to me. I grew up going to these Marine Corps family days, meeting all these heroes and participating. I mean, I think I was 4 or 5 when I was on my first C-130 flying to Okinawa.
My gosh.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Epic.
And then on the tanks and the Humvees, and I just remember climbing the ropes and doing the obstacle courses and stuff. So I've always had a really strong patriotic values, and my parents are both Catholic, and so we were brought up with the Christian faith, and so I've always had a very strong faith as well. But again, I've always been drawn to art, and I knew I was going to be an artist. I didn't know what type of art I was going to be. I just knew I was going to be an artist. The very first award I've ever won in art, I was in Hawaii at the time. I was in 3rd grade, and my dad was in Iraq.
Okay.
And at the time when he was in Iraq, it was Desert Storm, Desert Shield, not sure exactly which one. But there was an art competition to draw what you think your dad's going through, And I don't know why, but that one really got to me, So I took it home and I drew a helicopter and a tent and camels and stuff. And these were all things my dad was sending us in letters and phone calls and things like that. And I submitted it, and the art competition came and went, and I didn't win, so I was kind of upset. And but it was what it was. Young, just kind of shrugged it off. And one of my buddies came to me and he goes, "Yeah, man, the guy who won didn't even put his name on the artwork." And I was like, "No way! What an idiot!"
Yeah.
What does it look like? And he's like, "Oh, there's a helicopter, and there's a tent, and there's some camels," and I'm like, I'm gonna go take a look at that one, and I go take a look at it, and mine was the one that won. And it just kind of blew me away, and I was like, yeah, that's mine. I'm sorry I didn't put my name on. But that was my first real accomplishment that I felt something that I did on my own, And I think when you have something like that, that's something that was really important to you, that you kind of get a good win like that when you're young, I think it really shapes you.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I think it really did, because after that I entered another art competition. This one was for the state of Hawaii, and it was painting the state flower, and I did watercolor. And I won that. I got to meet the governor of Hawaii. Oh, wow. They gave me a $50 savings bond, which I don't know where it's at. That savings bond may be $1 million right now. I got to find that darn piece of paper somewhere.
Find that.
But I got to meet the governor of Hawaii, which was really special. And again, I just felt like art has always been my gift. And I didn't know it at the time, but I feel now that when you're given a gift, it's your responsibility to harness it, to nurture it, and to share it, and so that's something that, again, it's part of the faith for me, is that I share my gift, and so I've always done it. I was younger, I had kind of some issues with that. I used to have people that would copy my work a lot, and I'd go home and I'd tell my mom, I'd be like, "Mom, copy my work again," and it was silly stuff, Halloween, we cut out, make a pumpkin, and I'd made a pumpkin, and as my dad was in the military, so I gave him bullets, and he had grenades and stuff, And I look next to me, and homeboy's putting bullets and grenades on his pumpkin, and I'm just like, why?
Plagiarism at a young age.
Yeah, absolutely. But my mom would tell me like, no, and I hear now, that's one of the biggest compliments is when people copy you.
Oh yeah.
But at the time I didn't realize. But now I realize it is one of the biggest compliments because obviously people see you doing well, and like with the body art bus, like people are starting to copy the business, which I think it's great. Like I said, I was talking to you earlier. I think every good tattoo shop should have a bus.
Yeah.
Because you have a lot of clients that have car clubs, bike clubs, softball teams, birthday parties, all this fun stuff.
Yeah.
And they can't always come to the shop.
Right.
And so we have the buses where we go to them. We've done concerts, car shows, bike shows, birthday parties. I mean, weddings. Everything. You name it, we've done it. We've been in business since '09. And so it's been a long time, and we have 4 buses now. So we do big shows, and we've done the Renaissance Fair. We work with Harley Davidson, Polaris. Katy Perry's been tattooed on my bus. Tech 9. We're working the Renaissance Fair right now, which is really good. We're just doing bigger and bigger things. And again, I'm trying to share that. I'm trying to share that with people. So I tell artists now, like, if you want a bus, I can build you a bus.
Yeah. Joey, let's talk about that bus for a moment there.
Yeah.
Because you are actually the first person in Southern California to be licensed to have a mobile tattoo bus.
Yes.
So explain the process of that, how that came into being.
Yeah, well, believe it or not, I mean, like most things, comes from adversity, So actually, I graduated college in '08, and I wanted to open up a tattoo shop in Oceanside. And the thing that a lot of people don't realize about Oceanside is at the time, it was a little, I don't want to say corrupt, but a little bit, you're going to kind of like a pay-to-play thing.
Oh.
If you wanted a tattoo shop, you better know the right people or pay the right people. And at the time, I had just graduated college. I was 22,
So
23.
What you're telling us is it was a little bit like a mafia back then?
Definitely. Let's just say this. You go into the planning department and you say, I want to open up a tattoo shop.
Yeah.
And they'd be like, no, not in this city.
Wow.
Shut it down. Like they wouldn't even let you do the paperwork. It was rough.
Wow.
And I don't know how far I want to get into that because I did my own research, figured out who was involved and what was going on. And it was upsetting, but since they wouldn't let me open a shop there, I had opened an art gallery.
Okay.
So I was opening my art gallery. It was doing good, but that was in 2008, which I don't know if you know, but that was the Great Recession.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Yeah. Which is probably the worst time in history to open up an art gallery.
Yep.
Besides the Great Depression or some other time like that, you know? So nobody's buying art. So the only way I was making money was I was tattooing out of the back of the gallery, which at the time I didn't have too big of a problem with because I'd worked at a few shops and I knew how to do it properly. I knew how to do it right. I had already done an apprenticeship, so I knew how to do it properly, but the city would not let me license it. And so I kept asking them and asking them. And then the business wasn't going well because nobody's buying art. And I finally went to city council and I said, look, if you guys let me make this a tattoo shop / gallery, which is what I want, I could be here forever. I'll pay the rent, but right now, if you don't, I can't. And they called me a pillar of the community because we used to have classes for kids, classes for senior citizens and things like that. We'd have art drawing classes, nude body painting, all that stuff. It was great because I went to Art Center College of Design in Pasadena, which is one of the best art schools in the country. And so I brought that to Oceanside.
Yeah.
And I was trying to, again, share because I feel like we got to share our gifts.
Yeah.
But they would not let me open. And so I closed the gallery and I took my security deposit, which is only like $3,000 at the time. And my wife, bless her heart, she took $5,000 out of her 401k at the time. And her money and my money, I bought my first bus. Wow. And I bought the bus, and I was living in a condo, actually the Paula Mesa Resort over here, at the condos that they have there. Beautiful, honestly, I love it. Shout out to Paula Mesa, it's beautiful. But I was building my bus there, and the neighbors didn't like it. I mean, if people would tell me you got to get this bus out of here. We live out here, so we could be in the country style, you know. And I'm like, dude, I'm just trying to build my bus.
So tell us about building that bus, because that's fascinating. What I wanted to convey to everybody watching. A tattoo parlor shop, whatever you want to dub it, on wheels. So all the equipment that has to go in there. What was that process like? I mean, obviously you had a budget of around $8,000, right?
Yeah.
Which is fairly small. You imagine a bus.
Very small.
So were you doing it? Were you installing?
Me and my dad. Luckily, my dad's kind of like he calls himself a Mexican. You know, he's a jack of all trades. So he could do it all. So he was like, we could build the cabinets, we could build this, we could build that. Yeah. The hard stuff like the audio, I went to an audio guy. Luckily, I had a client, believe it or not, who's like, I want a full sleeve. And I was like, well, I need an audio system.
Yeah.
And so he actually paid a company $5,000 to do our full audio system.
Wow.
Beautiful. At the time, Diamond audio was like the best.
Okay.
And so it's all Diamond audio, beautiful subs, all LED lit up, just
Yeah.
gorgeous. So we had that installed. But me and my dad built the cabinets. We built everything, and we worked very closely with the San Diego Health Department to get it done, because basically it had never been done at that point. They had told me that there was a guy who had an RV many years ago, who had tried to get it licensed, but he didn't, and he gave up on it. And so working with them, they're like, okay, everything needs to be fully disposable, for one thing, because we can't have a clean room. Everything needs to be wipeable and cleanable, so that no matter what, it has to be clean. You have to have a sink, you have to have a water heater, you have to have all these different things. And so we just made a checklist, went through, started knocking it out, and then you have to actually send your plans to HUD, which is Housing and Urban Development, because before you even go to the health department, HUD has to say, this is an okay place to be in.
Okay.
And then once they give you the okay, then you go to the health department, and then they give you the okay, and then you're good to go. Which at the time, we were the first, so we had no example. So it was a little bit trial and error. I think we had 2 HUD inspections before we were given the okay, and then just 1 health inspection. But now with the new buses and stuff, it's just clockwork. HUD comes in, that we know what they're looking for, they knock it out. It's good to go. But yeah, it's something that I think that, if you really want to do something, you got to just kind of go for it. And sometimes you don't have all the answers, but if you have that drive and that determination, God. God, helps you out. A lot of people say like, why doesn't God do this? Why doesn't God do that? It's like God's going to meet you in the middle.
Yeah.
But you got to go. You got to take those steps. I didn't know how it was going to be.
Yeah.
And I didn't know, but I knew that it was something I really wanted.
You trusted.
And I trusted.
And you hear the Spirit. And I talked about that off camera and in the past too. It's to strip away this fear. You said to me one time, you said, I don't have fear, because there's no room for fear, and even the Bible talks about that. It doesn't come from God, but like you said, you have to activate whatever you're working toward. God will put the seed in there, and you have to just water it, but you have to do something physically in order to get something accomplished. But it seems like way back at the beginning, when you were describing there, it seemed like spiritual warfare was definitely at play to try and stop you at the beginning.
Oh yes. And even now, and all the time, really, it's just, I think that's just life.
Yeah.
I think that's just life, and it's tests, and I honestly feel like I'm leveling up in so many ways, which is a beautiful thing. But there's this saying, new levels, new devils.
Yep. I've never heard that, but there you go.
It rhymes.
Yep. It definitely rhymes.
Yeah, but yeah, and I feel like we are running into other things, but again, to me, I feel like nothing can stop what is going on, because it's what needs to be.
Yeah.
Like I was telling you, like about this convention, is I really felt like we're having the InkCon, and this is going to be our 2nd annual. The first one, I was telling you, I'm not a conventioneer. I've never organized a big show like this. This was the biggest thing I ever done in my life. And
let's pause for 1 second and discuss that, because we'll bring it up to the audience here.
Absolutely.
So this is Joey's InkCon convention, and it will be taking place in Ontario.
At the Ontario Convention Center.
Ontario Convention Center. It will be on June 28th, 29th, and 30th. And this is totally put on by Joey and his company. How many vendors are we going to have there that day?
Oh, we have 296 booths. So we're gonna have the best tattooers in the country are gonna be there. Some of the best tattooers all around are flying in, it's right across the street from the Ontario International Airport.
Okay.
Which I tell people, no matter where you are in the world, you're close to our convention, because you just fly in, it's right across the street.
Right across the street.
So it works great. But
Joey, how can they get tickets? Joey,
you could actually go to ink-convention.com right now and get tickets. Okay. We also, if you're a Grouponer, I know Groupon's kind of old school, but if you're on Groupon, we are giving you discounts on Groupon right now. So you could also purchase there.
That's really good.
Yeah, it's awesome. They actually contacted us and they said, let's partner up. And I said, all right, let's do it. It sounds great. And to me, it's just more blessings. Like I said, the Lord's going to meet you halfway. Like Groupon approaching me, you approaching me, all these different businesses approaching me. I just feel like, again, it's just something that I don't know how I'm going to do it. Yeah. I didn't know. I don't have exact my partners, God bless their souls, they're very flexible with me, because everybody I think wants to see the plan in black and white. This is how it's going to go. Blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
And I could give them an outline. I could give them the idea.
Yeah.
but it's, again, it all comes from just here, and it comes from, honestly, it comes from the Lord.
Yeah.
That it's gonna work,
Yeah.
and I know it's gonna work. And last year they say if you have a show and you break even, you're successful. Last year we profited over $50,000.
Wow.
Our first show.
Nice profit.
Our first show.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, all that money we put it right into this show. This show's going to be even bigger and even better, and I'm hoping we profit more and we just keep growing and doing it, because the tattoo industry itself is, again, I think the idea that people have about it is not accurate, and that's because most of them are like me. Most of them are artists that have always been artists that want to do art, and that's their gift, and that's a blessing that they were given. And there isn't, it's not like it was back in the Renaissance times or other times where you could go to a prince or a merchant and do paintings for them, and they would bankroll you for the rest of your life.
Right,
That doesn't exist. That doesn't exist. Now, there are many different art markets out there, for sure, and that's what I like to tell people too. You don't have to be a tattooer. There's a lot of different art markets out there. But this, it puts you in touch with your community. It puts you in touch with your own people that you're working with, that you feel very comfortable with. You know what I mean? And there's really, it's really hard to find an art career better than that when it comes to something like that. You know, and I just feel like these artists coming together are inspiring each other, and that's going to make their work better. And it's bringing us back to a place, I think, pre-COVID, because I think even now there's still people that are afraid. There's still people that are nervous. There's still people that don't want to participate in certain things. And I get it, and I understand. And if that's something you're dealing with, you know, that take your time, and you know you're going to come to it on your own. But this is just a way to give people permission to say, hey, we're going to come together. We're going to do it right. It's a huge building. You know, beautiful, beautiful building. Have you ever been to the Ontario Convention Center?
I never have, but I'm looking forward to it.
40, 50-foot ceilings. You come in, and there's a 60-foot ceiling right there. Like, beautiful, beautiful. You know, well air circulated, beautiful air conditioning system, good food, all that fun stuff. Great parking, easy access. If you're going to stay, we have hotels right across the street. We have the Azure and the Hilton that we got rooms booked on, that we're giving everybody a discount. So if you need a room, let me know. But beautiful, beautiful facility. So I just welcome everybody to come and just take part and see that it's not, we're not all gang members. We're not all criminals. We're not all drug addicts. We're not. That's not the world it is anymore. Now, was it at a time? Yes. You know, was it a thing?
We talked about that and the evolution of it. But your position in the industry is what I find so fascinating, because you are outspoken about your faith. And this is, now we see this a lot with celebrities now that are coming to Christ, and they're verbalizing that too. So it's interesting that God has put you in this position since a young age. And now he's put you in this industry, like you said, that stereotypically in the past was associated with gangs, drugs, alcohol.